MidPoint continues. Welcome back, noted sports business analyst and attorney and good friend, the CEO of Horrow Sports Ventures, Rick Horrow. Rick, from the New York Times, what is the NFL's incentive to change? Two lines that captured me right here. Despite all its current problems, pro football is positioned to not only weather its current storm, but also to sail through it toward greater prosperity. And in many ways, after all, the NFL has transcended sports to become a mass-produced, highly managed, and artfully promoted product. I think it's a wonderful question. What is their incentive to change? Because sponsors won't pull their money, fans won't go away, so even with all these issues, then they're pretty much going to remain the same.
Well, my good friend, that is a tremendously metaphorical article with a person who probably got an A in a journalism class for flared writing. But the bottom line of all of it is that we will see how quickly and how steadfast the commitment of Anheuser-Busch and Visa and Procter & Gamble and some of these other mega sponsors are as far as the long term. Now, this Mueller report, which a lot of people are talking about as a whitewash, is not. I know specifically we're talking about who had the tape, what did they do, how did they see it, and the committee to define domestic violence. Everybody's searching for a standard. Your guest a couple of segments ago, as far as where legal standards are with private investigating organizations, it's very clear. And I'm not an apologist for the NFL, but let's remember the dialogue transcends sports. This whole domestic and spousal and child abuse issue is significant. And believe me, sponsors are weighing in, because the one group, more than politicians who care about public opinion, are sponsors and corporations. It
will, of course, remain to be seen. I agree with you as well on a lot of this, because I do think it will eventually come to bear on the NFL, because it's all about money. Second NFL story here. The story in the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. Adrian Peterson alleged to have paid for an orgy involving his underage brother using money from his charity. Goodness, I mean, and everybody always thought Adrian Peterson was one of the good guys. Now you got a lot of people saying, well, of course, these are allegations, but it still makes us consider again that these many times are people with feet of clay, just like human beings.
These are just allegations, but
right.
It still makes us feel like these athletes have feet of clay, just like human beings. So that's exactly the point. The point is, though, this guy was in the top 15 or 20 as far as marketability is concerned. You got to admire one thing about it, though. He did pass up an immediate ability to plead and then come back potentially at the end of this year, maybe also because the Viking season isn't that great. But he wants to take this to trial, and he thinks he's going to be found not guilty. More important than that, companies like Radisson Hotels stepped away from Viking sponsorships and Nike stepping away from him. So all of the character issues are coming out. So as a lawyer, I'm not going to hop on this. I will focus on that word alleged, like you said. But let's see if the good guys, by the way, still sustain for every Adrian Peterson issue. Hopefully you see a positive Derek Jeter retirement. We do know this. Contracts today, my friend, are shorter, they're smaller, and they're easier to terminate. And it's not getting any easier for the athlete endorser.
There's the key in that. Less than 60 seconds. The Florida Gators, they suspend their freshman quarterback under allegations of sexual assault. Florida State, however, did not suspend their quarterback when he was accused of sexual assault. How do you see the two cases?
Wow, but there's not enough time for that. We got to do this again. But the bottom line is, obviously, one of them is a Heisman guy. The other one is a freshman. That's too easy. It's a question of evidence. It's a question of internal policy. But there has to be a standard that permeates activity on all of this. At the NFL, hopefully what you got is a standard that says if there is a charge, not just an investigation, no questions asked, you're on a list. And maybe the NCAA adopts that kind of rule so there is not this unequal treatment, but we better talk about it another time because we don't have the time for this.
Well, we're also going to then talk about the NCAA and what they do and the NFL and what they do, and we're also going to talk about further background checks and the NFL starting to look further into the backgrounds of their players and the NCAA as well, and then who's going to pay the bill. Okay, you're right.
Oh, boy. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, man.
We come back and we do that all again. Rick Horrow, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show, my friend. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
All right, stick around. Stick around for that coming up next week, because he's right. We could go on and do about an hour and a half on that one and figure out where all the money's going. Again, it's all about the money no matter how you face it. Coming up next, telling it like it is. It's very simple. There are those who would like to say that a television commercial is sexist, and all it is about Halloween and sandwiches. Maybe we all just need to back up a little bit and remember when a joke was a joke. It's coming up next right here on MidPoint.